Hello and welcome to Tech24 with me, Rebecca Bowring. Coming up in the programme, it's an information jungle out there. How do we hack through to find what's relevant? We'll look at some solutions to keep our virtual lives in order and browse Flipboard, a social magazine. Plus in Test24, a seeing eye cane for the visually impaired. It doubles as a smartphone, detects hanging objects and allows the user to find friends nearby. We put blind spot through its paces. More on that in just a moment, but first, curation used to be something that was done in museums and art galleries. Now anyone can be a curator on the internet. Maria Popova, who runs the Brain Pickings newsletter, calls it a drive to find the interesting, meaningful and relevant amid the vast maze of overabundant information. There are plenty of tools out there to help us plough through the masses of articles, photos, videos and blog posts. France 24's Internet Editor-in-Chief Eric Olander is here. Before we get to some of your favourites, Eric, do you ever feel like your brain is about to explode from information overload?
Well, I love all that information coming in. I think a lot of people really enjoy that. It does feel overwhelming, but it's not just the information coming in, it's also the information going out. And for a lot of people like me, who have Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, let's just take a look at what I have to do every day. I've got my SoundCloud account here, I've got my G+ account here, I've got my Facebook account, I've got my Chinese Weibo account, and then I've got a Twitter account. So the pressure for me is the fact that I feel like every day I have to keep feeding these, and this has been the big problem for a lot of people, is really just finding the time in the day to actually add to all of these different accounts, and then on top of it, to consume information from these different accounts. It can feel very overwhelming. So
you're saying pressure to be a creator, but also at times to be a regurgitator. Can you explain to us what is creation, what is aggregation, what are the differences?
And let's talk about curation too on top of that. So curation is what I do, for example, on my Twitter feed. I tweet only on one topic, which is China in Africa. That's the only thing that I do. And every day what I do is I go through the main headlines and pick 4 or 5 different things that I tweet about. And then what happens is for people around the world who are interested in this topic, they don't have to go through Google or news sites. They just go to my Twitter feed, and I've already curated, filtered out all the best, or what I think is the most relevant content, and that's a benefit to web users, and that's really the strength of Twitter.
This tends to be other people's material, though, that we're talking about. So what about attribution? Some people are calling for a code of conduct, like we once saw with blogs, to stop this from being attributed willy-nilly or not at all.
Oh, that's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a code of conduct. The internet,
thought you might say that.
They resist these types of rules. The internet's strength is the fact that it's open. It has no rules. It's chaos. Now, there is a code of conduct on Twitter, and it's called RT, retweet. So when you want to attribute something to somebody else, you want to give them credit, you put that RT up there, and that tells you it's not coming from you, but it's coming from somebody else.
That's automatically in the system, but not all websites have that.
Not all websites do that, but that's really the ethic, though.
Let's talk now about curation tools. Tech24 caught up recently with Mike McHugh. He's the founder of the social magazine Flipboard for iPhone and iPad. It lets you quite literally flip through what your friends are sharing with you across a range of social networks. He explains more about how it works.
Basically, it's like a personal magazine filled with everything you care about. You can have pictures of your kids and your friends. You can have news sources that you love, topics that you're really interested in. We are really trying to create a new kind of experience that blends the best of digital and the best of print. We love magazines. We love the way magazines look. They're so beautiful. And we want to make the web look as beautiful as a magazine.
So you heard there about a social magazine, but there are, of course, other ways of curating material. I'm thinking of Pearl Trees, for example, which was a site started here in France, and the idea of putting pearls of data on a tree that you grow along a theme. Then there's also Zeit that lets you personalise your news consumption. And one we use here at France 24, Storyful. Tell us about that.
Well, Storyful is used for, it's really not a consumer-facing site. It's for businesses, well, particularly news companies. And what they do is they go out and they filter all of this content from the social web and give it to news agencies who increasingly are relying on citizen journalists. Now, what's happened with Zeit and also with Flipboard is they've taken advantage of this medium right here. This is the iPad, which is different, of course, than consuming news on a computer. The idea is you use your hands to maneuver through, almost like a magazine in some sense, and that's why sites or apps like Flipboard have become truly, totally revolutionary.
It is a really gorgeous interface, isn't it? Just briefly, Eric, one more thing. It's one thing having people curating, but what about when robots and algorithms start to do it? Because there's been a bit of controversy recently about Google giving us a view of reality that it thinks we want to see by curating its search results for us.
Well, Google and the algorithms do an okay job. They pull in from so many more sources than we would be able to pull in ourselves. The problem is that the personalization still lacks something. There's a taste that you're missing when an algorithm does it versus when you get to select from either your own social networks or yourself, and you get to determine what news you want. So while they've advanced it a lot, algorithms only go so far.
There certainly is a lot of fun to be had in getting involved in curating. Thanks for that, Eric. Stay with us. Test 24's next. Now to a technological breakthrough for the 285 million people worldwide who are visually impaired. Designed by Celine Chu, a student at the University of Singapore, the Blind Spot cane employs GPS and Bluetooth to allow users to interact through social networks while walking more confidently. The award-winning cane is still in its prototype phase. Tell us more about how it works, Eric.
Well, the idea is that, and this is one of these hybrid technologies that we've talked about before that I just absolutely love. So what you have is you've got a standard cane, but on that cane is connected to a Bluetooth device to an earpiece. That earpiece and is connected to a GPS. So what ends up happening is you are able to maneuver through a city, and that GPS will tell you where you are, but it also connects up into Foursquare, which is the social network which connects people to where your friends are and whatnot. Now, the next evolution of this device is to be able to tell you that you've arrived at a certain place, or you'll be able to kind of tap into the Google Maps functionality of the world, which allows you to put geography and whatnot. So it really gives a sense of visibility to people who don't have sight, but through technology, they'll be able to see things.
And its standard purpose is also enhanced, isn't it? Because this is ultrasonic sensor. So normally when you're sweeping with a cane, you can tell what's on the ground, but this can tell you if there's something hanging down that might be an obstacle.
Exactly, and it's really part of a new trend that we're seeing now. More and more, catering technology for not only just what we call the traditional disabled, but we have this huge generation of baby boomers. And these are the people born after World War II, and now, particularly in the United States, in Japan, and in Europe, they're getting old. So this is now a huge market for technology, not just for what the traditionally defined disabled.
And what other technologies are being developed at the moment to help visually impaired people? I'm thinking, for instance, of ways to help them to drive more safely and autonomously.
Driving is one, but there's one that's kind of sitting out there that everybody loves to use, and her name is Siri.
Yeah, she's
Siri,
already there.
She's
already
there.
in
So
place.
imagine the utility of Siri, which of course is on the iPhone 4S, which is the ability to talk to your phone and interact with your phone using voice. Now, voice commands have been out for a long time. There's been Dragon Speech, which does speech to text and whatnot. So it's getting much easier now, thanks to technology, for the visual, the hearing impaired, and other people with disabilities, or people who are just older, to interact with technology. Last point on this is that older people also have complained a lot about the buttons. So you're seeing phones, for example, get bigger so that elderly people can actually more easily tap into that.
And as you said, that is a growing market. Thanks
Huge.
very much for your expertise, Eric Olander. That's just about it from the Tech 24 team for this week. Just a reminder to check in with us on the social network. Follow the URL that's coming up on your screen. Now, the internet can be a powerful tool for fundraising, and doesn't George Takei know it? The Star Trek hero has been drumming up funds to stage a musical about the World War II Japanese internment. That's a story close to his heart. He raised $158,000 through crowdfunding site Indiegogo, then released his Happy Dance video to celebrate. Looks like Sulu's still got the moves. See you next week.
I'm sexy and I know it.